Hello and welcome to the Brothers and Sisters Like These podcasts. I'm your host, Brother Emiliano. Today, our guest is Michelle Pearson from the Black Box Dance Theater. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me today, Brother Emiliano. It's great to be with you guys.
It's our pleasure to have you and collaborate with you. So, Michelle, please give us an overview of the Black Box Dance Theater.
Okay, so Black Box Dance Theater, we are a non-for-profit professional modern dance company, and we're based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And we've been around since about 2014, so in our 11th, 12th year almost.
Okay. And how would you describe your mission and vision of Black Box?
I would say that we specialize in nonfiction dance. And when we go to work with different folks, sometimes I even call modern dance like American dance. It's started in America maybe 100 or so years ago, and it's really rooted in, like, one of the first things modern dancers did was just take the shoes off, put their feet on this earth, and said, I'm going to make dances about here and now, what I see, and what I process, and like what I walk on. So in that way, I feel like we're doing homage to modern dance. The other thing that I call it American dance is, like, there's two, like, main values that we really uphold. One is freedom of speech. Everyone has their own unique story, and we're not here to impose it, but just to, maybe elicit it or listen to it differently. And the other is around equality. So modern dance is fantastic for not just saying, oh, it's for all different bodies, but saying, hey, creatively and visibly, it's just cool to have as many different bodies, sizes, ages, and abilities performing and making with us. So that's a little bit about our background.
Okay. And I can definitely see that as a spectator, so to say, on the sidelines, that your outreach is very important for you guys as a company, and it shows in the way you reach out and what your productions are. So your vision and your mission, your vision is very clear in the work you present to the public. So good for that.
And and it's funny because crazy enough, we don't even see it as outreach. It's like when we put ourselves, when we meet people where they are and we make dances together with them, it changes what we know. It changes the movement we get to create. So we're like, we're in the community as artists and as human beings. And I feel like we're kind of getting more than we're giving. So the outreach is more like an in-reach, and it's just an amazing place to be, stepping out of the dance studio and being in the world.
Well, I'll tell you, as experience with other nonprofits, whether it be agro, equine, dance, it's the same kind of philosophy, like you just said. What we call outreach is really a way we have to describe for other people to understand. But for us, it's engagement, it's collaboration, it is, and just like you said, as important for us personally and for our organization to have that connection with the population. It's not a textbook like outreach. I'm going to go out and do outreach. Yeah. It's a philosophy. And I've seen that with nonprofits because of the nature of our willingness and desire to collaborate with our community, that theme, the way you described it, comes up more times than not. So good for you for explaining it that way, because I've thought about that, noticed that, but I've never had actually anybody describe it that way, which is a good reflection of what motivates us to do our different activities within the community.
Exactly.
Okay, so please tell the listeners a little bit about your youth, if you have any military ties, your adult life, just who's Michelle Pearson?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
The short version, if you want.
The short version, sure. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina, at Jacksonville. All of my granddads were Marines. So, and my cousin, she's still in the Navy now somewhere. I think she just went to Italy. I need to visit her this year.
Oh yeah.
But so we're Marine folk, and went to daycare at Camp Lejeune. My dad went to Camp Lejeune High School. Now, I did not serve in the military, but it's been a part of our family identity. And really for my grandfathers especially, and even my father-in-law, knowing what I saw, but also what I didn't know, was as much a part of my growing up as understanding, like what their story was.
And later on in life, how did you become involved with dance?
Well, like because Black Box, we go into the world and we dance with who we dance. One of the founding members, along with myself and others, was a Alfredo Hurtado, and I'm sure you'll have him on one day. But
Absolutely.
Alfredo, and I'll tell more about him later. But he's a Purple Heart combat veteran, and he's in the dance company. And I said we're a nonfiction dance company. One of the first things we do is we know who we are, and we know who we meet, and we make dances again rooted in how are we here, and what's meaningful to us, what's important to us. We certainly don't have answers. We don't even know what the questions are half the time, but that's where our dances begin. So I think with Alfredo, it just made sense that, if we were making dances and he was in the company, we're going to come into contact with military life from a whole different way. But I had done years ago, I've always done like different work. I've worked with senior citizens and people and stuff. And so I remember I was up in, where was I? Gosh, Vermont. And I danced at a Vermont veterans home for a long time. And that like really turned me on, hearing these stories from these, our elders, who were talking about these experiences from so long ago. And, we would dance about them. And so that was really a powerful moment. And I thought, this is touching something inside of my own personal history that I'm more curious about. So I think it laid the seed for where we are today.
Beautiful. We here in Western North Carolina will be at the North Carolina Veterans Home in November to do a reading to our veterans in there. And I think to piggyback what you said before, they're very thankful of our engagement with them and our collaboration with them, but at the same time, so are we. It's a labor of love. It's important for us as veterans to connect with the older generation and hope with the hopes that that will follow generation after generation. So glad to see that connection and not necessarily all that common in the dance world, I imagine.
It's not. And, so Black Box, if I can go back to one of the very first pieces we made, and Alfredo was in our company, and we all do writing, which is why we're such good friends with brothers and sisters like these. Writing is powerful; it reveals a lot. So we all do a lot of writing, and we share parts of that with each other, and it's just like getting to know each other. And as we were listening to who's in the room and our stories, Alfredo's experience was unlike anything we had lived. And so we didn't even know how to respond to him, much less how to hold it. So we turned to our art and we made this little dance, and it was called Move to Action. And it was this powerful little 6-minute dance. We still do it in school shows across North Carolina. It's a really beautiful thing. You can hear pin drop in a middle school, and that's not a common event.
Hmm.
But this little dance that we did was pretty powerful, and it's a nonfiction dance, and it kind of visibly tells a little bit about Fredo's story, but knowing that it's not just it's his spouse's, it's his communities and all of that. And we performed that down at Creative Forces at a workshop in Jacksonville, and I'll go in later who we met there. I think you know him, but we'll go back into that. But here's the cool thing. The
Another Marine, let's say,
uh,
not an airborne like
not an
Marine
airborne,
Alfredo, but
another Marine, big
another
guy.
Marine. Yeah,
Team
you can't miss them.
Houston. I'll get yeah. But here's the cool thing. So the North Carolina Arts Council, which is I really appreciate, they know who's in the state. And they were like, you guys, your work is really connecting here. We started doing these active duty, like 2-hour workshops, at Camp Lejeune, at Fort Bragg, Seymour Johnson with National Guard. And, I was terrified at first, but it was really powerful. We would do writing, we would do dancing. And when we walked in, of course, there's 50 Marines with their arms crossed, seeing, dance on our shirt, and they freak out. I'm like, oh no, they're not afraid of anything but dance. And, but 2 hours later, there's like tears and laughter, and it was so powerful. So when we we're doing that work. We ended up doing it for 6 years. I guess they called it warrior resets because here were these guys who were just having trouble sometimes coming home, leaving home, um, finding out like how to support each other, how to support themselves, and this dance, stuff really helped out in that. So we did that there, and then we just thought, okay, we need to be doing this with our veterans. Yeah, even more so. So, they're here and they live here all the time. And so we just reached out. And that was when we went to the Arts Council. And we're like, we got to do something a little more permanent, a little more like looking at the folks who are here and engaging with people and issues that matter to them.
And we also support, enjoy the support of the Arts Council as well. And that is also what helps our collaboration take place. And so we're also very appreciative of how the arts and creative writing and dance and all the other forms have helped the veteran and military community in general. So shout out to them. So, Michelle, what are your thoughts on why, maybe writing or song, but especially dance and the arts is helps heal? What do you think is intrinsic about dance that helps us emotionally, physically, even physically? Because we do like move to heal, where we do limited yoga, but that's appropriate for us. But so how would you describe how dance heals in its various healing forms?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question. I struggle sometimes because it's like when I say to people, I'm not a therapist. I did not go to school to be a therapist. I'm not trained in that way. However, dance is therapeutic and dance is healing. And I am a dancer. I am a choreographer. So I'm bringing dance with this real core understanding of I know what it does. You're right. It is healing. It is therapeutic. And I've witnessed it for over 30 years. People who I will never get tired of seeing people rediscover themselves. A lot of people who've experienced trauma or any kind of hardship, even a bad day, it can just take you out of who you are. It can take you out of your body. And dance just brings you right back in. One of the first things we say to people is, hey, you're in charge of your body. And it sounds like such a small thing, but then we start moving and I'm like, okay, move smaller, move bigger, do it different than me. What feels right to you? Even in that little act, they're starting to question, oh wow, what is right for me? What is right in my body? And then the stories like in the veterans home. Now I'm skipping back. I worked on a dementia unit. And I remember somebody telling me, oh, just, let them follow along. And I'm like, no, 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 no. It's okay if their brains don't remember. That's not where their life was lived primarily anyway. It was their shoulders, their hands, their knees. So if you get the body moving, your body has memories. Your body knows how it's lived on this earth. And so some of that stuff starts to come out, whether we have words for it or not. And when you see people move, it is an emotional release, but it's also a reconnection to who they are, how they've lived in this world, but it's through their control and their ownership. And it is incredibly beautiful to witness. But it's also it's a powerful motivator, actually movement to get people going. Most dance happens in community. So there's another thing there. So when dancers are, when they get with other dancers, there's something that happens that just you can't replace other people. So that's another
Very cool.
aspect, I think, of that healing factor.
And that's a great segue into my next question, which I'll start it by explaining that as brothers and sisters like these board members, I've tried to be as knowledgeable as I can about creative writing, the arts in general. And so just trying to do my own research, I've kept going, trying to find the origin of song, dance, writing. And although the writing would only go back so far, excuse me, the song and dance would go all the way to prehistoric times. What I've noticed is that there's something intrinsic about human nature that has tied our song and dance as a fundamental social skill to enhance our bonding and our healing together as a social animal within the social fabric of our societies. And it happened at micro levels continuously. So it wasn't just a social or cultural change. It was, there's something in us innate that says we do better when we express ourselves together in community. And you can see that, as you mentioned, about memory units or dementia units, where if people look into this, they'll see that music instantly brings people out of their dementia and reminds them.
That is
And,
moving.
and so it allows them to do movements that they did before that they forgot. Or if you, I've seen it happen before a wedding where you've shown pictures and songs and the person remembers and can be in the moment. So that shows you how deep in our mind and psyche and soul these forms are. Can you kind of just give your own take, that you have so much experience with dance, how you believe there's got to be something at a basic human level that this stuff is right? It's not something that we're inventing. It's something that we're following within our culture as humanity.
I think we have walked parallel lives, Amelia. So early on, I ended up in a company with Liz Lerman Dance Exchange. And some of the questions that the company used to guide us, which Black Box still holds on to, I think are fundamental to us, is, who gets to dance? Where does dance happen? What are you dancing about? And does it matter? I would open my workshops with this little line. I'd say, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, people used to come together and they would dance and the sun would rise. They would come together and dance and crops would grow. They would come together and dance and a child would be born. They knew that if they came together and danced, something powerful could happen. They believed in the power of dance. And when I was with Liz Lerman and them, it just changed what we thought about dance. But you're so right. I feel like what we do with especially with our veterans, we're there and we're like, this is what people used to do to make amazing, miraculous things happen. And something inside of our DNA knows that. Like the second we get in a circle, it just feels right. And then something else happened. You talk about song, and I think about folk songs, and I'm not, I haven't done, deep study into this, but I believe, folk songs have information that they're passing along that's essential to your survival. It's teaching you about what tools and how to use them, or a safe passage, or how to overcome some hardship. These folk songs have essential messages. So I often feel like, and I don't think I've ever named it like this till you asked, but I often feel like now the dances that we're making are like modern day folk dances. They're there as little miracles, but they're also there because we are we're creating the message of survivorship. This is essential to us as either a community or as human beings. And it is in our DNA. And I think it's ancient. And I hope it way outlasts me.
And me too. Well, thank you for that description. But I'd like to explore how this is not an add on to our lives, but this is a basic feature of it. And we do storytelling too, just in a different way. And I totally agree that a lot of the stories that we've worked on together have really been multiplied emotionally by the way it's been expressed by our writers and your dancers. So it's been quite amazing to see what comes out of our collaboration.
It is truly that.
Now, could you describe, Michelle, some of the healing and learning opportunities that you, Black Box Dance Theater, offers the public?
Sure. So right now in Asheville, we have an ongoing every Wednesday class. Deidre Gilmer and Kendall Teague are leading that, and I think it's on Wednesdays. And now we've just heard that the Wortham wants to start another class on Thursdays for veterans. These both are free and open to veterans, supported by, we our sponsors and funders and leveraging that. And then in the Triangle area here in Raleigh, we've been just started a new collaboration with the Joel Fund. I'm sure you know who they are. If not, they're a visual art group, but the Joel Fund serves veterans with visual arts. And looking to start ongoing classes here. We're also, we have this film that's about to premiere, and we feel like it's going to be this beautiful gift for people who maybe are like, writing's not for me, art's not for me, dance is not for me. Just watch it. And then we want to immediately have workshop experiences or create opportunities for someone who wants to take it all the way to the stage. We've got space for you and works that we continue to create.
And so, an important aspect of this for the veteran population and other populations that which you provide quote unquote outreach, as we described earlier, is that this you don't have to be a professional dancer or athletic in that sense. You can move with your body at your potential and your capacity to tell a story. So, to anybody who has mobility problems or impairments, that is not at all going to be an issue. And our move to heal is exactly move to heal, not only emotionally, but also physically. We have a lot of veterans who have physical disabilities that limits the way they can move. And these collaborations that we do with Deidre and Kendall are totally appropriate for every skill level, while we are also creating that emotional and supportive bond that we were talking about otherwise, that these classes and these sessions do when you are in a group setting as opposed to just doing it at home in front of a mirror. And I can't stress enough how important it is to do it together, because together we grow emotionally and physically. So if you have any kind of reservations about I'm not a quote unquote dancer, well, really none of us are that get involved. Very, very few of us are that get involved. And yet we've all seen incredible benefits. So don't let that be a friction point for you reaching out to us or to you.
And we talk about that healing aspect. Is it okay if I go back to Alfredo's story a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
I
very
mean,
relevant.
I met him, and I was going to a juvenile detention center in in Greenville, North Carolina, alone. I'm like, oh man. Well, he's got a guitar and he's got tattoos and he looks really cool. So I'm like, get in the car. That was in 2011. So anyway, he gets in the car, and he was a musician with us for many years. This is before Black Box, but then there's something happened, and I was like, Alfredo, man, can you dance with that kid over there? It was just a bad match. So he put his guitar down and he ended up dancing with this kid. And I remember driving back, and he was like on the roof of the car. He's like, oh my God, what was that? What just happened? He's like, my body feels so good. My back's been hurting for years. How is it that my body feels good? And so little by little, he danced more and more and more. And I love it. He always says, boot camp's got nothing on modern dance. I've never been so sore in my life. So there is also that like of, that physicality, that it is hard, but it's not. Again, I'm going to go by it's what's right for your body, and that's just good choreography. You're not trying to copy someone else, but moving in such a way that your body communicates something that no one else on this planet could do.
We have a lot of those similar types of benefits in our writing. And I think what I've noticed most about our nonprofits is whether it's agro, therapy, equine, canine, dance, writing, there's something that will really hit home and resonate with a certain individual.
Mm-hmm.
It could be more than one, or it could be all of them, or it could just be one or two. But what I've noticed is that we hit emotionally and physically from all different angles and in different ways, and we are all force multipliers. And I don't think anybody ever says this is the way to quote unquote get better.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative, it's a mindset, and especially here in Western North Carolina, and also with you guys being in the Raleigh, there's a great connectivity and a great solidarity amongst us in that mindset of we're all in this together. We're not stepping on anybody's toes. We're not, in your case, literally.
It's okay if you
For
do.
us, it's figuratively. For equine, it gets a little sticky when the horse. Um, but that's what's great about it is that we're all in this for the right reasons. We approach it from different angles, but the substance is that we all do healing that can fit anybody's personal lifestyle or choices. And what's so great is that we do these collaborations where someone might say, I'm really into dancing, but I didn't know about writing, or I'm really into writing, but I didn't know about dancing. And so this is what this does, open up these possibilities, just like you've explained with Alfredo, that this was a problem for him. He didn't even know about it. It looks like you initially didn't know about it. How is this going to happen? And it happened.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the magic and the beauty of what we're all doing individually. And then when we work together like this to bring and enhance our nonprofits.
Again, it's like, wow, we are like so in sync here. You're right. There is no propriety. There's no right way to be in community with each other or to heal. So recognizing the beauty and the value and how essential the arts are, just in big picture, is really powerful. And I was saying, I'd love for us to get together and host some collaborative offerings to people and trainings to people, like any, if there are artists, if there are writers or dancers or visual artists who don't know about the military communities or don't know how to work with them. I mean, brothers and sisters like these, Black Box, Joel Fund, we are the ones who can bring not just veterans and military in, but also artists into this work and start to be a place where North Carolina is a model for the rest of the country.
Okay, so let's take a moment here to talk about this upcoming documentary screening that we have at the Wortham.
Okay.
Uh, that is presented by the Arts Impact Collaborative, which is called We Lift Each Other. The tickets are free. It's at 7 p.m. All you have to do is go online to register for the tickets here in Asheville. So tell us about this. We were very excited for this upcoming event.
I think it's Monday. Is that November 10th though? Because it's
Yeah.
Veterans Day Eve. Okay, November 10th.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Here's what happened. So Steve Henderson, the Arts Council put
Oh,
me
you
with.
dropped his name.
I did. I'm gonna drop Steve Henderson's name 1,000 times. I love him. Active duty things, we would always do a little tiny mini show at the end. What if we had an evening length work? What if it was on stage, not just for each other in the room, but for a community audience? So I envisioned this evening length work called Patriot. And Patriot had the lens of the war hero, i.e., Alfredo, knowing too that is a complex story. It's not one sided. It does have pride and valor, and it has burden, and it has grief and sorrow. It's not one story. We had the lens of the spouse. All the workshops we've been doing with active duty, we also did with spouses. Their stories, so powerful. We had the lens of the older veteran, the guy who never told his story, like my father-in-law, like some of my granddads. And then we had the lens, believe it or not, of the protester, someone who's like, anti whatever. And we were up in Boston, and this woman, she's like, well, I'm a protester. And we're like, okay, talk to us about that. She said, I spent 18 months on the front line in Iraq. I'm a war journalist. She said, I support the military and I love them, but I will protest some of the things I've seen. I said, welcome to the show. so there's everything from pride to everything. So anyway, so we created this evening length work called Patriot. And our thought was we were going to bring veterans and spouses and these active duty, if they were able to do it, into this performance place. And it's a beautiful multimedia work. It has spoken word, it has story, it has song, everything, and set, and definitely dance, lots of dance. And the very first place we ever did it was in Asheville. And the very first group of veterans we ever worked with were brothers and sisters. Actually, it was just brothers like these at that time.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we had, oh my goodness, how many Davids did we have? We had David Robbins, David Worthy, and we had Steve, and then we had Pete, and we had, Ron Toller, and all of them. And I think the first day they came to read their stories and leave, but they didn't, They were in the show. They were so good. It was so powerful. We all knew that something had been made. Let's have one more show in the Triangle. So they came and we performed this encore finale. Again, I mean, the audiences are just standing ovation, tears. It was powerful for all of us. And we kind of, we thought that was it. And then, I don't know, almost a year later, I got an email from a film crew out in LA. And he's like, "Hey, I'm this filmmaker. Um, I heard about your work, and we're just really curious about this. We're doing a story about the power of art in America. I don't can we Zoom call? I don't get it. Military and dance, it just doesn't sound." So we're like, okay. So me and Alfredo Zoom called with him, and it got even worse. He's like, "Yeah." I was like, and I told him, I was like, "Look, anything I say it sounds so cheesy. I don't even like to talk about my work. We don't like to talk about it because whatever images you have, you're going to be like, she's making this up, or, this isn't real." So he said, "Well, can I fly out there and see a workshop?" And this is where I'm so proud of North Carolina, going back to our North Carolina Arts Council and our partnerships, because what other modern dance company can pick up a phone and say, "Hey, Fort Bragg, can you get an active duty workshop in 2 weeks from now for us? Oh, and the next day, hook us up with some spouses." And they're like, "Yes." So he flies out, we take him to Fort Bragg. We get on base, which is not easy. And we had a workshop, with this unit. And we were driving back to, he's like, "So you never met those people before?" We're like, "No." He's like, he was just blown away. Then the spouse workshop the next day, he couldn't even talk. The tears. He was like, "You're right. Whatever you had said to me, I wouldn't have believed." He said, "So here's what's happening. There's this Arts Impact Collaborative. 5 different filmmakers on the search to look for 5 stories in America where art has real impact on real lives. I want to tell your story. Can I?" So I said, "We would love it." He said, "You're right. It's hard to tell with words, but I want to make this documentary. And my goal is to tell this story and to share it with America." So we decided to do one more Patriot project. And again, the very first person I'm going to call is the Wortham, Ray Jeffrey there, the managing director. And it's kind of where it all started. And we knew our veterans would be there and be ready for this. And we were so excited the film crew was going to come out and film this for a whole week. And we're like, let's do it. Let's do it, folks. And that was in August of 2023. But there was something inside of me and that said, this isn't the real story. This is the performance. This is the outcome of the story. And if we really wanted to show, if we really believe that dance and story and writing are healing, then let's do it so they can see it. So reached out to some friends of mine there. You might know Kevin Rumley.
Of course, yes.
at,
Absolutely.
the Veteran Treatment Court.
Absolutely.
Kevin and I had met, and I said, "Kevin, is there a group of veterans who have not done this before?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I can try to get you in at the Vet Treatment Court." Beautifully, Judge Pope allowed us to come into the courtroom and actually meet them on their terms in their space. And Judge Pope said he'll give you 10 minutes to talk to them. So Alfredo and I drove 4 hours for a 10-minute meeting. Because you know what? You're not going to put up a flyer. If, we needed to meet people and say, "Hey, just do this with us for a week. You don't have to, but just come Monday. You know what? Just come Monday for 1 hour. Don't even think about the whole week."
Mm-hmm.
And that's all filmed in the documentary. So we did. We had, I don't know, 6 of these guys show up on Monday, and they stayed along with brothers and sisters like these, along with our beautiful, veterans who were part of the work. And so you saw brothers and sisters like these and Black Box make space and meet, these vets who were in a really different place. And we just kind of took them through this process over the course of the week. They perform, and that's what the film captures then. That in 5 days, look at this transformation of what happens that's real. It's not fake. The film is amazing. It's about an hour long. And it's just evidence of what brothers and sisters like these and Black Box have been doing all these years, and actually what we want to continue to do. But this is the only story from the entire East Coast that's being told, and we're really proud. We're making something really beautiful happen, and so we're proud that this story is going to be shared with America. But they said, they want the premiere to happen in the place where the work happened, and that's a big, like, uh, I guess, nod to us. It's an invitation. We want to celebrate you. We want to support this work. We want our artists and our dancers to come and say, okay, let's celebrate this and let's watch the movie together, and then let's talk about what we know needs to happen tomorrow. Yeah.
That's great. I think showing the journey that takes place is, for those that really need this kind of help, is more important than the destination, because it elaborates on the real progress and the real path that happens to get to the end stage, which sometimes can be just too overwhelming for us to see and take at face value. We don't even have the buy-in ourselves as veterans. But when we see the process and we see that what you're showing us is people that we can relate to, then we can see, okay, there is a space, there is a path for me to participate in this. So I applaud your vision of how you wanted this to be exposed and documented. So very good for you. And what I recently, one of our writings groups classes that we're having right now in Asheville in person, which is for first time writers. I went the other day, they were about in their fifth class, more than halfway through. And it was a representation of kind of what America, poster child of what America is. People of all ages, of all heights, of all weights, of all genders, of all creeds. But what united them was their humanity towards healing themselves and then healing others. And they all supported each other tremendously. And had it not been for their veteran status, our paths would have never crossed. But yet we form deep and sincere bonds because of the very traumatic things we've been through with. And what I invited them to think, and I told them, I remember when I was doing my first class, I was a bit almost overwhelmed and I couldn't look past just the next writing week. Mm-hmm. But I said, try to get into a headspace where let this be your first experience with brothers and sisters like these and the arts, and not your last. Let this be the very beginning of your journey, which is why we're so happy to collaborate and promote other nonprofits. There are other ways that can keep you engaged, whether it's equine dance or any other form. So what's important, and you're doing that by showing this journey, is that these initial engagements can bring other forms of healing and continued engagement with our community, which we've seen those lasting engagements is really what makes a difference. When you feel comfortable that you have a support network amongst your peers and not just a one-time workshop. When you really create that sense of community, that's when people can let their guard down a little bit and their defensiveness and say, you know what, I need help. I have a drug and alcohol problem, or I have suicidal ideation. And so then from creative writing, it comes to, well, I have a really good provider at the VA. Why don't we go and have a chat? And that's the magic that happens that isn't necessarily tied to dancing or writing. And that all comes very natural to us because this is kind of why we're doing this. So
The anthology is the 5-part documentary, and the big title of that is called "I Feel Myself to Be Part of Something." And then ours is "We Lift Each Other," a little pun on dancers because we do.
Absolutely.
But you're right. It's like engaging and coming back. It's the coming back. Feeling being part of something means that it's there for you, and it's not one and done. It's having that community or having something that you go back to over and over that is there for you, and challenges you, pushes you. Maybe you're there and they reach out for you and say, "Hey, you got to be here Wednesday, 12
Or
o'clock."
holds you accountable,
Hold you
checks in on it.
accountable.
Mhm.
Exactly. Which, to be honest with you, that's a lot of times why we have performances. There's a reason they go. It's like I don't feel like going. Oh, but we got that show. Coming up. I'll let them down if I'm not there. As we rehearse. Since the Patriot Project was done, our Asheville group, they've performed in one, two, three, I don't know how many other shows with us. They came all the way to Raleigh Memorial Day weekend and had an amazing performance here. We had another one at Wortham, and we're planning for more now.
So I think the point that I want to make to the listeners is that just find a thing that works for you or things that work for you, and the healing process will kind of take over itself, and you just stay with the flow, stay with it, try to stay engaged with your community, your fellow veterans, your people, and that's what's going to bring long term the biggest change for your to improve our quality of life, which when we improve our own quality of life, we're improving the quality of life of our family, of our friends, of those around us. And you'll start to see things start to line up in place because you're in a better place emotionally and physically to deal with what you have to deal with. So
Yeah.
all righty. So tell us, how can someone help Black Box Dance? How can they participate? How can they donate? How can our listeners help you do what you do?
Oh, thank you for asking that. So we
Absolutely.
are a non-for-profit, just like you guys. Black Box Dance Theater, with theater is THEATRE.org. We have a little link. We really appreciate even the smallest gift is so helpful to us. We want to take workshops and films and opportunities to people, and we rely on support to do that, and even to take it to performance as well. And then sign up for our little newsletter and stuff. And so come to a workshop, bring a friend to a workshop, come to see this documentary premiere. It's free and open to the public November 10th at 7 p.m., although 6 p.m. the doors open for kind of a red carpet reception. Come to that, bring somebody, reach out and bring a neighbor, especially if you know a veteran. Just give them a ride, bring them on over. And this is a great event for them to maybe see something for the first time, meet brothers and sisters like these, meet Black Box Dance Theater, and we'll have a little postcard you can take away.
Michelle, could you give us the viewers a kind of call to action?
Oh
What?
man, well, the arts in general, they do so much more than entertain us. Okay, they are essential to our survivalship as human beings. I also think in this era, they connect us in ways that are getting harder and harder to be authentic around. People are like, I'm not sure if that's true or not, but when you're together, Martha Graham, who is a very famous modern dancer, said the body doesn't lie. And so when we are in community with each other, it's a powerful thing in creating art. So support the arts. To go to our website, join our newsletter there, find out about classes that we have. If you are able and care to, support us. And if, that can even be in time and talent, we have some things that we can engage you in. And I think, and then come November 10th, if you can make it out that night. Oh, just found out November 11th, Veterans Day. We're going to have a free and open viewing, a screening of the film at I think it's Asheville Bunkin Tech Community College during the daytime. And I'll find out more details about that. So if you
Absolutely.
don't like to travel at night, but want to come in the day, that's a more appropriate time, then that's also available.
Excellent. I look forward to get that information out to the public. All right, Michelle. Well, our time has come to an end. I appreciate this time together. I appreciate what you're doing for the community at large, what you're doing for veterans in North Carolina and at large, and for our collaboration. I look forward to us collaborating in the future. And so, to you, Michelle, the last word.
Well, I think what we're doing here is a model. It's a model of hope and a model of what can happen when you meet each other. So I guess my takeaway is first, thank you so much for having me on this program. Um, and I would just encourage people to go meet someone, even if you think you already know them. Take the time to really meet somebody, and then see what happens with that. So thank you for having
Thank
me,
you.
and
Our
I hope to
pleasure.
see you November 10th.
You most certainly will, God willing. Take care, listeners. To the next episode.